We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. One Nation, One Election Bill, also known as the Constitution 129th Amendment Bill 2024, to be introduced in the lower house of Indian Parliament. German Chancellor Scholz loses no confidence vote, paving the way for early elections in February. 2 killed by a teenage girl at a Christian school in the U.S. state of Wisconsin. Police says no known motive for the violence yet. New York judge rejects Donald Trump's bid to dismiss conviction in hush money case, says no immunity for unofficial acts. French president declares mourning period after Cyclone Chido slams island territory of Mayotte, says will visit Indian Ocean Island in the coming days. And on to the details now. One Nation, One Election Bill is slated to be introduced in the lower house of the Indian Parliament on Tuesday. The bill, which provides for simultaneous elections, is in the listed agenda of the Lok Sabha for Tuesday with the name Constitution 129th Amendment Bill. It will be introduced by Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal. Besides this, Minister Meghwal is also Act 1963, the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Act 1991 and the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019. This bill seeks to align elections for assemblies in Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir and Puducherry for purposes of simultaneous elections. Well, the Union Cabinet had in September accepted the recommendations of the high-level committee. The panel also recommended the implementation of simultaneous polls in 2 phases. It recommended holding Lok Sabha and Assembly elections simultaneously in the first phase and conducting local body elections. Those are panchayat and municipalities within 100 days of general elections. It said there should be a common electoral roll for all elections. While in the upper house of Parliament, further discussion on the glorious journey of 75 years of the Constitution of India will be taken up. The 2-day discussion, which began on Monday, went off with a direct face-off between the 2 national parties. DD India correspondent Anil Thomas has the details.
Nirmala Sitharaman opened the debate on the glorious journey of 75 years of the Constitution in Rajya Sabha. She slammed the previous governments and accused the Congress party of prioritizing family over democracy by suppressing freedom of speech and using constitutional amendments to consolidate power. She stressed that the Indian Constitution has stood the test of time.
Post-Second World War, nearly 50 countries, in fact over 50 countries, had become independent and they had their constitution written, but many have changed their constitutions, not just amended them, but literally changed the entire feature of their constitution. But our constitution has stood the test of time, of course yielded itself to very many amendments.
The Union Finance Minister red-flagged the license quota Raj of Congress rule, which ruined India's economy. She questioned the role of the Congress in India's economic growth.
4 decades of patronage of socialist ideas and policies came to hardwire Indian politicians, bureaucrats, intellectuals, and even business people in ways that made a swift march to a market economy politically challenging. That's the reality of the policy of the Congress party, which they themselves came. We've reformed the country. They baggaged the country in 50 years, and later they wanted to claim that they are reforming and bringing prosperity to this country, which is not true.
Leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge, emphasized that all must adhere to the Constitution and its preamble. The party also gave women the right to vote long before several other nations.
जब बहुत से शक्तिशाली देशों ने यूनिवर्सल अडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज नहीं था, महिलाओं को वोट का हक नहीं था, तब भारत में महिलाओं के समेत सभी को यूनिवर्सल अडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज का अधिकार अगर किसने दिया, वो कांग्रेस ने दिया, संविधान ने दिया।
Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri slammed the earlier Congress governments while speaking in the Rajya Sabha. He claimed that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar opposed the Article 370, advising Sheikh Abdullah to not isolate Kashmir from India.
What should have been a transitional provision ended up assuming a permanent character for nearly 70 years because the Congress lacked the courage to act.
Rajya Sabha is also likely to see high-octane sessions as the discussions will resume on Tuesday. It comes as the Lok Sabha, after 2 days of spirited discussions, wrapped up its debate on the Constitution on Saturday. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
And DD India's Anil Thomas joins us for more from New Delhi on this. Well, Anil, good morning. The government is set to introduce the One Nation, One Election bill in Lok Sabha today. What can be expected, as a 3-line whip had also been issued requiring all the party MPs to be present in the House?
Well, good morning, Lipakshi. Well, very much on the expected lines. This bill was expected on Monday to come into play, but it's been the revised list of business on Monday postponed it for a day to Tuesday today. So all likelihood, all anticipation. But I would say the opposition political camp is divided on this. There are many political parties who are open to the idea of listening to what the government has to present when it comes to One Nation, One Elections. The government has highlighted many of features of the advantages having one nation, one election, especially when it comes to bringing down cost, the elections happening in one, across the nation at one particular moment, which helps the nation at large. But the opposition being divided surely helps the government get a big window, especially when it comes to presenting the bill, introducing the bill in the parliament. And I think we're going to see healthy discussions takes place, because cutting across political lines, when the opposition is not united on a particular subject, you're generally going to see the opposition being receptive to listening to what the government has to present with the bill. And I think that's where the government scores points. And I think the government has got at least on the floor of the House, the government has got this things very much under control, especially when the bill will be presented in the House. All likelihood, it's going to go to a parliamentary committee, but since the BJP has the numbers, especially when it comes to Lok Sabha MPs, this particular panel or committee that will be formed will have more BJP members, and every political party will get their representative on board. So all in all, I think it's going to be healthy discussions, healthy deliberations, and the bill, at least when it is presented on the floor of the House, will clearly have at least people listening to it with all ears.
All right, healthy discussion expected out there. Also, Anil, yesterday a 2-day discussion began in the upper house of Parliament on the glorious journey of 75 years of the Constitution of India, and went off with a direct face-off between the two national parties. Any progress which can be expected out there?
Well, today is the second day of the deliberations on the 75 glorious years of the drafting of Indian Constitution. We can expect that face-off to continue, but the very fact that in the 4 weeks of intersession of Parliament, yesterday was the first day when you saw some kind of bonhomie, some kind of deliberations, some kind of healthy, discussions, especially on the Parliament. So it was all in all a great move from the government's perspective, listening to the opposition, and the opposition too giving, all ears listening to the Treasury benches. So all in all, I would say a healthy discussion on day one. We can expect that to continue. Today, the Treasury benches discussions will be initiated by Union Minister J.P. Nadda. And, the opposition too, at least the TMC has almost, they have used 2 or 3 speakers, but they have almost got 7 speakers on the drafting on the Constitution that's going to take place in the Rajya Sabha. So it's going to be good discussions, and I think Rajya Sabha has been missing those healthy discussions, except for week 2 where we had 2 bills getting passed. But otherwise, it's almost been a logjam in the Rajya Sabha, and I think this particular discussion surely paves the way for the week to end on a positive note. We still got 1 day odd discussions on the drafting of the Constitution, 75 glorious on that, followed by 3 days left for business transactions to take place. So the positive end to this particular deliberation could at least leave an optimistic note for the remaining 3 days for some business to be transacted in the upper house.
All right. Also, Anil, what are the other critical discussions which we can expect today?
Well, in the lower house, as the big focus is going to be on the one nation, one election, but also question are where important issues could be
All right, there's some problem with the audio right now. Thank you, Anil, for all the details. And moving on right now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Rajasthan on Tuesday on the occasion of the first anniversary of the BJP government in the state. To mark the occasion, the PM will be initiating and inaugurating 24 central and state projects in the state worth 463 billion rupees, one of which is aimed at linking 11 state rivers so that it becomes a water surplus region in the coming days.
To mark the first anniversary of the Bharatiya Janata Party government called Ek Varsh Parinam Utkarsh in Rajasthan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of 24 projects related to energy, road, railways and water worth over 46,000 crore rupees at Jaipur, Rajasthan on Tuesday. Rajasthan Chief Minister Bhajan Lal Sharma took stock of the preparations for the mega event.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी की बनी हुई सरकारें हमेशा जनता के बीच में जाकर के अपना हिसाब करती हैं, पूरे समय का हिसाब देती हैं, हर साल हिसाब देती हैं कि हमारी ये डबल इंजन की सरकार.
During the program, PM Modi will inaugurate 9 projects worth more than 11,000 crore rupees, which include 7 central government projects and 2 state government projects. He will also lay foundation stones of 15 projects worth more than 35,300 crore rupees. Prime Minister will lay the foundation stone for construction work of the Ramgarh Barrage and Mehelpur Barrage and system for transfer of water from Navnera Barrage to Bisalpur Dam and Isarda Dam through aqueduct on the Chambal River at a cost of over 9,400 crore rupees. PM will lay the foundation stone for installation of rooftop solar plants on government office buildings, development of one 2,000 megawatt solar park and 2 phases of the 1,000 megawatt solar parks in Pugal, Bikaner and drinking water transmission line. Foundation stone will be laid for works related to Luni, Samdari, Bhildi double line, Ajmer, Chanderia double line and Jaipur, Savai Madhopur double line railway project, as well as other energy transmission related projects. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Dr. Mohan Yadav and Union Minister of Power C.R. Patil will also be present on this occasion, as one of the projects involves linking of 11 rivers in Rajasthan, which is projected to make it a water surplus state.
After a splendid victory against the Congress party in Rajasthan, the Bharatiya Janata Party is all pumped up. On its first anniversary, the Bhajan Lal government is all set to welcome the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be dedicating projects worth 46,400 crores to the people of the state, and this includes energy, rail, road and water. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina in Jaipur, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Now. US President-elect Donald Trump vows to speak to Russian President Putin and Ukraine's Zelensky to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Israeli officials arrive in Qatar's Doha to resume talks on remaining issues in Gaza ceasefire deal. And we'll tell you about the exclusive new species discovered in Vietnam. Welcome back. You're watching DT India News Hour. Lepakshi Khurana, and moving on. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz lost a confidence vote on Monday, putting Europe's biggest economy on the path to elections on February 23rd. It marked the effective end of his troubled government, although the centre-left Chancellor continues in a caretaker role and with a minority in Parliament. Scholz lags badly in the polls behind Conservative opposition leader Friedrich Merz, who heads the Christian Democratic Union of ex-Chancellor Angela Merkel. Scholz had called the vote weeks after his coalition collapsed. Late on Monday, he asked President Frank-Walter Steinmeier to dissolve the legislature soon and ask voters to head back to the ballot box.
We owe our citizens decency and seriousness, as I have already said, but the reason for my decision to end the coalition government was something else. It was caused by an even more important question, namely the question of whether and how we invest in our country. Powerful and determined or small-minded and despondent, everything else depends on this question. Our security, our future prosperity, the competitiveness of our economy, good work and education, and last but not least, social cohesion in the country.
While coalition bickering over fiscal and economic woes came to a head when Scholz fired his rebellious FDP finance minister Christian Lindner on November 6th, the political turbulence has hit Germany as it struggles to revive a stuttering economy, faces major geopolitical challenges, Russia-Ukraine conflict, and heightens uncertainty over NATO after Trump win. And the United States is preparing to impose new sanctions against Georgia. Spokesperson for the U.S. Department of State, Matthew Miller, said the latest sanctions will soon be imposed.
I've been greatly concerned about the state of Georgian democracy, the actions that Georgia Dream has taken to undermine Georgia democracy. You saw us just on Friday impose 20 new visa restrictions on individuals affiliated with the government who have been responsible for undermining democracy in the country, and we will have other actions that we're prepared to take in the coming weeks.
Well, in the United States, a New York judge ruled on Monday against a bid by President-elect Donald Trump to have his conviction for covering up hush money payments to an adult star thrown out on immunity grounds. Trump's lawyers argued that having the case hang over him during his presidency would impede his ability to govern. He was initially scheduled to be sentenced on November 26th, but Justice Juan Merchan pushed that back indefinitely after Trump defeated Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris in the November 5th election. The case stemmed from a $130,000 payment that Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, made to adult film actor Stormy Daniels. Trump pleaded not guilty and called the case an attempt by Bragg, a Democrat, to harm his 2024 campaign. Well, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump held his first press conference after his November election victory in wide-ranging remarks from his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida. Trump said that he would talk to Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskiy about bringing the Russia-Ukraine conflict to an end. He also said that much of the territory in dispute has been reduced to ruble and would take a century to recover from.
It's the worst carnage that this world has seen since World War II. I've had pictures of fields where bodies are lying on top of bodies. Looks like the old pictures of the Civil War, where just bodies are all over. Just if you saw those pictures, you'd feel more strongly about it. It's got to stop. And we're trying to get it to stop. We're going to be talking. We'll be talking to President Putin, and we'll be talking to the representatives, Zelensky and representatives from Ukraine. We got to stop it. It's carnage.
Well, the United States on Monday also imposed a new round of sanctions targeting North Korea over its ballistic missile program and support for Russia against Ukraine. The sanctions, which list North Korean banks, generals and other officials, as well as Russian oil shipping companies, are the latest U.S. measures aimed at disrupting North Korea's support to Russia's conflict with Ukraine. A total of 11 people and 9 entities were blacklisted on Monday by the Biden administration, including 9 individuals and 7 entities by the Treasury and 2 individuals and 1 entity by the State Department. Also, South Korea's foreign ministry separately said on Tuesday that it has blacklisted 11 individuals and 15 entities linked to illicit military cooperation between North Korea and Russia. The responses came as 10 countries, including the US, South Korea, Australia, Britain, France and Japan, as well as the European Union, issued a joint statement on Tuesday condemning Pyongyang and Moscow's military ties in the strongest possible terms. Well, moving on, a teenage 15-year-old girl killed a fellow student and a teacher, wounded several others before being found dead in the northern U.S. state of Wisconsin on Monday. The police department said at least 3 people were killed in the incident, including the shooter, identified by police as Natalie Rupnow. The shooter was found dead inside the school when police arrived. At least 6 other people were wounded in the incident and were transported from the scene to area hospitals. The shooting took place in a mixed-grade study hall at Abundant Life Christian School, a private institution of some 400 students. While President Joe Biden had been briefed on the shooting, and White House officials were in touch with local officials in Madison to provide any support needed. And updates on Israel-Hamas conflict now. Israeli officials arrived in Qatar's Doha on Monday for working-level talks with Qatari mediators on remaining issues in Gaza ceasefire deal. The Israeli technical team's Doha visit is aimed at a Gaza ceasefire and a hostage prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas. The talks are currently focused on bridging gaps between Israel and Hamas on the deal U.S. President Joe Biden outlined on the 31st of May. Qatar, along with the United States and Egypt, has been involved in months of behind-the-scenes negotiations for a Gaza truce and hostage release. The efforts have gained momentum in recent weeks. However, no breakthrough has been achieved so far. Also, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz stated on Monday that Israel is closer than ever to reaching a prisoner swap deal with Hamas. He confirmed that the potential exchange deal is expected to gain majority support in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. And some update on Syria now. Syria's ousted President Bashar Assad says he had no plans to leave the country, but the Russian military evacuated him from Syria after it came under attack. Assad said he wanted to stay and fight, but had been evacuated by Russia after rebel forces infiltrated the capital, Damascus. That statement, which was issued on social media accounts, was apparently his first public comment since he and his family fled Syria just over a week ago. Meanwhile, Ahmed al-Shara, the leader of the rebel coalition that governs Syria, called for governments like the United States to remove their terrorism designations for his group and to lift sanctions imposed on the country so that it could rebuild, a public show of diplomacy as maneuvering for Syria's future intensifies. And the British government said it will send a delegation to Syria to meet with the rebels who toppled President Bashar Assad, as well as to meet civil society groups. Foreign Secretary David Lammy told reporters that the UK would support an inclusive transitional political process that is Syrian-led and Syrian-owned. Britain, along with the US and other countries, classifies Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the main rebel group and a former al-Qaeda affiliate, as a terrorist organization. UK officials have suggested they may reconsider that designation, but have not given a timeline. The UK said it pledged £63 million in funding to provide food, shelter, medical care and other emergency services for vulnerable Syrians as part of efforts to stabilize the country.
Can confirm today that we have sent a delegation of senior UK officials to Damascus this week for meetings with the new interim Syrian authorities and members of civil society groups in Syria, and it underlies our commitment to Syria. Yesterday I announced a £50 million package of humanitarian aid, also further money to help secure chemical weapon stockpiles in Syria.
Meanwhile, US President-elect Donald Trump said on Monday that Turkey will hold the key to what happens in Syria, where rebels toppled the government of Bashar al-Assad earlier this month.
Well, I hadn't thought of it. I think we have to get on with our lives. We'll have to see what happens. But right now, Syria has a lot of, there's a lot of indefinites. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Syria. But I think Turkey is going to hold the key to Syria, actually. I don't think you've heard that from anybody else, but I've been pretty good at predicting.
Moving on, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has appointed Dominic LeBlanc as new finance minister after Chrystia Freeland quit in a surprise move over US President-elect Donald Trump's tariff threats. Trudeau was present at the swearing-in, which was his first appearance in front of media since Freeland's announcement. LeBlanc currently serves as Public Safety Minister and has been overseeing Canada's border security response after Trump threatened 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico if those countries failed to curb the movement of migrants and drugs across the borders. Chrystia Freeland resigned from her post, citing disagreements with Justin Trudeau on how to respond to Trump's threat of tariffs. She announced her resignation in a letter to Trudeau on Monday, in which she said the two have been at odds about the best path forward for Canada. The decision comes after Trudeau informed her last week that he no longer wanted her to be his government's top economic advisor. Her resignation came hours before she was due to provide an annual fiscal government update in Parliament. While South Korean impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol has been given time till weekend to appear for questioning over his failed martial law bid or face possible arrest. Yoon is being investigated over alleged insurrection by both South Korean prosecutors and a joint team of police, defense ministry and anti-corruption investigators. The president and some of his inner circle face possible life imprisonment or even the death penalty if found guilty. He remains under a travel ban. The Joint Investigation Unit also launched a raid on Yoon's security service in an attempt to obtain phone records. South Korea's Constitutional Court on Monday began proceedings against Yoon and has around 6 months to determine whether to uphold his impeachment. Moving on, French President Emmanuel Macron will be heading to Mayotte Island as it faces worst cyclone in nearly a century. His visit is aimed at giving support to its inhabitants, civil servants and emergency workers, as well as prepare the island for the future. After meeting with outgoing ministers and emergency and security officers on Monday, Macron guaranteed that emergency measures were in place to reach the affected communities. A day of national mourning would also be declared in France's poorest overseas territory. French Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau also visited the island and said it would take days to ascertain the full extent of damage and deaths on cyclone-hit Mayotte.
It is clear that the island is totally devastated. As for the government's response, we wanted to go there. We three government ministers, first to show the population our sympathy and also to make an assessment. We are thinking of all these families who are very severely affected, but also to show all the people of Mayotte that the government is by their side with a helping hand.
Meanwhile, emergency workers searched for survivors on Monday and battled to restore services in Mayotte, where hundreds or even thousands are feared dead. Cyclone Chido devastated large parts of the archipelago of East Africa over the weekend, strewing homes over hillsides and cutting phones, power and drinking water. Well, a major earthquake hit Venezuela's capital, Port Vila, on Tuesday. The 7.3 magnitude earthquake has struck off the coast of Port Vila shortly after 3 p.m. New Zealand time. The quake damaged a building that houses the U.S. and French embassies in Vanuatu's capital. The U.S. Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii said tsunami waves have been observed and are forecast for some coast. Well, 112 new species have been discovered in Vietnam, including 106 endemic species that cannot be found elsewhere. Notable discoveries include the bright orange crocodile salamander, a starfish-shaped orchid, a shrew, which is one of the world's lightest land mammals, and a soft-haired porcupine with sharp fangs named the vampire. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Stay with us for a detailed report on Sri Lanka President Dissanayaka's engagement with the Indian leadership. Delhi NCR quality dips to severe category, GRAP stage 4 curbs imposed. And stay with us as we tell you ahead how Surat Diamond Bourse is picking up as a premier hub for trading rough and polished diamonds as it marks its first anniversary.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. One Nation, One Election Bill, also known as the Constitution 129th Amendment Bill 2024, to be introduced in the lower house of Indian Parliament. German Chancellor Scholz loses no confidence vote, paving the way for early elections in February. 2 killed by a teenage girl at a Christian school in the U.S. state of Wisconsin. Police says no known motive for the violence yet. New York judge rejects Donald Trump's bid to dismiss conviction in hush money case, says no immunity for unofficial acts. French president declares mourning period after Cyclone Chido slams island territory of Mayotte, says will visit Indian Ocean Island in the coming days. And moving on, India and China will hold the Special Representatives Dialogue on the boundary question in Beijing on Wednesday. India's National Security Advisor and India's Special Representative on the India-China boundary question, Ajit Doval, will hold the 23rd meeting of the Special Representatives with his Chinese counterpart and Minister of Foreign Affairs of China, Wang Yi, in China. The two special representatives will discuss the management of peace and tranquility in the border areas and explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The last round of special representative dialogue was held in New Delhi in December 2019. And on the last day of his 3-day visit, Sri Lankan President Dissanayake arrived in Gaya, Bihar today. He will offer prayers at World Heritage Mahabodhi Mahavihara in the morning and stay there for around an hour. This is his first visit to India after the recently concluded presidential and parliamentary elections in the island nation. And we now take a look at Sri Lankan President's Monday's engagements, including bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and exchange of agreements.
On Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Sri Lankan President Dissanayake held detailed discussions to deepen cooperation between the two countries in areas such as defense, trade and investment. Prime Minister Modi acknowledged the close interlinking of the two countries' security interests.
हम दोनों इस बात से पूरी तरह सहमत हैं कि हमारे सुरक्षा हित एक दूसरे से जुड़े हैं। हमने रक्षा सहयोग समझौते को शीघ्र अंतिम रूप देने का निर्णय लिया है।
The two leaders also agreed to expand cooperation in hydrography. Both countries agreed to cooperate in areas of maritime security, counter-terrorism, cyber-security, smuggling and organized crime, as well as disaster relief and humanitarian assistance. Both leaders agreed on the need to continue to address issues related to fishermen in a humanitarian manner.
We also want to find a durable and sustainable solution to the fishermen's issue that has become a plague for both countries.
The Sri Lankan president, who's on his first international visit since taking office in September, assured Prime Minister Modi that Sri Lanka would not allow its territory to be used in any way that could undermine India's security interests.
I have also given an assurance to the Prime Minister of India that we will not allow our land to be used in any way in a manner that is detrimental to the interest of India.
Both nations signed 2 memoranda of understanding, one a protocol amending the double taxation avoidance agreement and prevention of fiscal evasion, the other an agreement regarding training and capacity building of civil servants in Sri Lanka. India reiterated its commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's development.
Friends, भारत ने अब तक श्रीलंका को $5 बिलियन की लाइन्स ऑफ क्रेडिट और ग्रांट सहायता प्रदान की है। श्रीलंका के सभी 25 जिलों में हमारा सहयोग है और हमारे प्रोजेक्ट्स का चयन सदैव पार्टनर देशों की विकास प्राथमिकताओं पर आधारित होता है।
President Zelenskiy, who arrived in Delhi on Sunday, was accorded a ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Sri Lankan president met with President Draupadi Murmu. He will attend a business event in New Delhi to promote investment and commercial links between the two countries. The Sri Lankan president will also visit Bodh Gaya during his stay in India. With Jessica Taneja, Amritpal Singh, DD India.
Meanwhile, the 11th edition of India-Sri Lanka bilateral maritime exercise Linex 24 begins today at Vishakhapatnam. 4-day exercise is being conducted in 2 phases, with first 2 days dedicated for harbour phase, while next 2 will witness the sea phase. Indian Navy welcomed Sri Lanka Navy ship SLNS Sayura on Monday. Initiated in 2005, Linex is a significant series of bilateral naval exercises that have strengthened maritime cooperation between India and Sri Lanka over the years. And well, in a tragic incident, 11 Indian nationals were found dead at a restaurant in Georgia's mountain resort of Gudori. The initial findings from Georgia's Ministry of Internal Affairs suggest that all the deaths resulted from carbon monoxide poisoning, with no visible injuries or signs of violence at the scene. Preliminary investigation findings suggest that a power generator was placed in a closed indoor space near the bedrooms, which was likely activated after power supply interruptions on Friday night. This generator is suspected as the source of the carbon monoxide poisoning. The investigation has been launched under Article 116 of the Georgian Criminal Code, which relates to negligent manslaughter. Forensic experts have been assigned to determine the precise cause of death through medical examination and evidence gathering. Efforts are ongoing, with criminal investigation teams actively working on the scene and conducting interviews related to the case. Well, Embassy of India in Tbilisi extended its condolences to the victims' families and is working closely with local authorities to facilitate the prompt repatriation of the mortal remains to India. They're also in contact with the bereaved families and are committed to providing all possible support. And United Nations mission in South Sudan peacekeepers from India recently received UN medals for their outstanding contributions in various fields. In all, 1,165 sons and 17 daughters serving with UNMISS in Upper Nile state of South Sudan were honored for their great contributions spanning from vital road repair work to large-scale veterinary camps and flood mitigation measures. India is the second largest troop contributor to the 18,300-strong peacekeeping mission in South Sudan, having provided nearly 2,400 soldiers. Well, a thin layer of fog engulfs India's national capital, New Delhi. The Indian Meteorological Department have said that cold wave conditions are likely to prevail over major parts of northwest India during the next 5 days and over central India in the next 2 days. Residents in New Delhi and surrounding regions are advised to take necessary precautions, such as limiting outdoor activities. Also, India's Air Quality Panel for National Capital Delhi and NCR on Monday enforced GRAP 4 restrictions under the Winter Air Pollution Control Plan, including a complete ban on construction activities as air quality plunges to severe. The Stage 4 cabs were implemented just hours after GRAP Stage 3 measures were imposed in the capital. This initiative taken after Delhi's average AQI, which rose to 399 at 9 p.m. local time on Monday night, breached the 400 mark at 10 p.m. IST. Considering the steep rise in the AQI of Delhi owing to highly unfavorable meteorological conditions and absolute calm wind conditions, the CAQM subcommittee on GRAP called for an emergency meeting. The subcommittee decided to impose Stage 4 severe air quality of the GRAP in the entire NCR with immediate effect. While GRAP Stage 4 was implemented in Delhi for the first time this season in November, following persistently high pollution levels in the city and nearby areas, Stage 4 is the highest level of air quality alert, defined as severe plus in the NCR's GRAP system. Under this stage, the AQI exceeds 450 and stringent measures are enforced to reduce pollution levels. The measures include vehicle restrictions, a ban on non-essential truck traffic entering Delhi, except for vehicles carrying essential goods or providing necessary services. Trucks that are LNG and CNG electric or BS6 compliant are exempted from the ban. School closures. All schools except for classes 10 and 12 will transition to online classes. Work from home guidelines. State governments, including the Delhi government, may decide to reduce in-person office attendance. Private governments and municipal offices might implement a 50% work from home policy to limit the exposure of workers to hazardous air. Also, a construction ban. The ban on construction activities is extended to include linear public infrastructure projects such as highways, roads and power transmission lines to prevent additional dust pollution. A health advisory also been issued to citizens, especially children, the elderly and those with pre-existing health conditions are advised to stay indoors and avoid outdoor activities. The CAQM has called on residents to follow safety. And on this day last year, world's largest diamond trading hub, Surat Diamond Bourse, was inaugurated in India's Surat city. It features India's largest customs clearance house, jewelry mall and international banking and safe vault facilities. Inaugurating the Bourse in December 2023, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had defined it as an unparalleled initiative aimed at accelerating the growth of the diamond industry. A report.
Surat Diamond Bourse is the world's largest and the most modern center for international diamond and jewelry business. The Bourse is spread across 35.54 acres, encompassing 4,500 offices for national and international traders. It is a global center for trading of both rough and polished diamonds as well as jewelry. Inaugurating this massive project a year ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the Bourse a symbol of New India's capabilities and resolutions.
साथियों, आज सूरत शहर की भव्यता में एक और डायमंड जुड़ गया है और डायमंड भी छोटा मोटा नहीं है, बल्कि ये तो दुनिया में सर्वश्रेष्ठ है। इस डायमंड की चमक के आगे दुनिया की बड़ी से बड़ी इमारतों की चमक फीकी पड़ रही है।
This big diamond center in the form of Surat Diamond Bourse now facilitates many aspects of diamond trade under one roof. It can accommodate artisans, workmen and businessmen. It has become a one-stop shop serving as a global focal point for the exchange of both uncut and polished diamonds as well as jewelry. The Bourse also possesses a jewelry mall catering to retail businesses and a dedicated space for international banking services and secure vaults. Prime Minister has remarked about the potential of Surat to leapfrog India as a big player in global gems, jewelry export businesses. In the past 1 year, a number of dignitaries, institutes and ambassadors of various countries have visited the Diamond Bourse. Surat is one of the top 10 growing cities in the world And the world-class facilities at the diamond bureaus further strengthens India's stellar position in diamond trade across the globe. Meghna Dev's report for DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news across India. Jammu and Kashmir is witnessing an influx of migratory birds that have arrived at Srinagar's Hokarsar wetland, one of the most significant bird habitats in the region. The annual migration of these birds has become a major attraction for both nature lovers and tourists, drawing visitors from across the country and beyond. As winter sets in, thousands of migratory birds flock to the wetland, creating a spectacular sight for bird watchers and environmental enthusiasts. Srinagar is once again drawing crowds with its vibrant cultural scene as art lovers flock to the ongoing cultural festival at Tagore Hall. The event, which showcases the rich artistic heritage of the region, has attracted a diverse audience of local residents, tourists and cultural enthusiasts. Held at the iconic Tagore Hall, a cultural landmark in Srinagar, the event serves as a platform for artists to display their talent and creativity. Assam recently inaugurated the Brahmaputra Carnival on the banks of the majestic Brahmaputra River. This grand event marks a significant milestone in the state's efforts to promote tourism and highlight its rich cultural heritage. The carnival, which promises to be a vibrant showcase of Assam's traditions, arts and natural beauty, aims to attract both domestic and international tourists to the region. And still to come in DD India News Hour. TikTok urges Supreme Court to block US ban over unprecedented speech restriction. Indian women's cricket team to face West Indies in their second T20 innings. An artist from Nepal uses visual elements to call for action against development-induced destruction.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana, and moving on, TikTok made a last-ditch effort on Monday to continue operating in the United States. TikTok asked the U.S. Supreme Court to temporarily block a law that would force its Chinese owner to sell the online video sharing platform or shut down a month from now. TikTok and ByteDance filed an emergency request to the justices for an injunction to halt the looming ban on the social media app used by about 170 million Americans while they appeal a lower court's ruling that upheld the law. TikTok asked the nation's top court to make a decision by January 6th. The law, signed by President Joe Biden in April, would block TikTok from U.S. app stores and web hosting services unless its owner ByteDance divests from the app by January 19th. And SoftBank would invest $100 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years in what would be a boost to the U.S. economy. It was announced by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump with SoftBank Group CEO Masayoshi Son at his site in Florida on Monday. Trump said in his joint appearance with Son that the investment would create 100,000 jobs focused on artificial intelligence and related infrastructure, with the money to be deployed before the end of Trump's term. The Monday announcement echoes a similar pledge Son made with the then President-elect Trump in December 2016 at Trump Tower, when Son said he would spend $50 billion and create 50,000 jobs. Trump said the investment was evidence of monumental confidence in America's future. And the International Monetary Fund said on Monday its executive board completed a review that would provide Zambia with immediate access to about $184 million. The access to the funds brought Zambia's total disbursement under the 38-month extended credit facility arrangement to about $1.3 billion. IMF earlier said that despite a challenging environment, the Zambian economy is showing resilience, with real GDP growth now projected at 4.3% in 2023 and 4.7% in 2024. It added that external and domestic conditions have put pressure on the external balance and the exchange rate, raising inflation. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. First, we get you some updates on cricket. Rain stops play once again on day 4 of the India vs Australia test in Brisbane. Nathan Lyon had taken his first wicket of this match as he removed the mighty KL Rahul for 84. Ravindra Jadeja is now with Nitish Kumar Reddy at the crease as 6 down. India needs a solid partnership from these two batters. Earlier, Rahul earned a prized lifeline on the first ball of the day as Steve Smith dropped his catch in the slips. Indian captain Rohit Sharma, meanwhile, couldn't extend his stay in the middle as he departed after adding just 10 runs to the team's total. Meanwhile, in women's cricket, India will face West Indies in their second T20 innings of the 3-match series in Mumbai on Tuesday. India has a 1-0 lead in the series after defeating West Indies by 49 runs in their opening T20 match on Sunday. India's Smriti Mandhana went on to forge a pivotal second wicket partnership of 81 of 44 balls with Jemima Rodrigues, which eventually paved the way for India's win in the first T20 innings. India scored 195 for 4, which is its third highest total in the format, before restricting the visiting team to 146 for 7. And India's Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia on Tuesday morning launched the Fit India Cycling Tuesdays campaign, a unique initiative that promotes fitness, sustainability and healthier lifestyles through cycling. Starting today, the campaign encourages people to dedicate at least 30 minutes every Tuesday to cycling, either individually or in groups for commuting or fitness purposes. Present on the occasion were Minister of State for Sports Raksha Khadse, Member of Parliament Tejasvi Surya, boxers Neetu Gangas and Preeti Pawar, and Paralympian Simran Sharma. And the world chess is gearing up for another fabulous battle as the world's highest rated player, Norway's Magnus Carlsen, will take on 18-year-old youngest world champion from India, Dil Kukesh, at Norway Chess 2025 that will begin from May 26th next year. Kukesh made headlines last Thursday when he defeated Inglaterra, securing the world championship title and bringing it back to India for the first time since Vishwanathan Anand's reign. The renowned tournament, set to take place from 26th of May to 6th of June, promises one of the most highly anticipated matchups in chess history between Carlsen and the newly crowned champion. In 2023, Gukesh finished third in Stavanger, but now is back as a world champion, ready to challenge Carlsen on home soil. And the 2024 FIFA Best Awards ceremony will be hosted on Tuesday in Doha. Awards will be given to the best men's and women players and coaches, among others. European champions Real Madrid dominate the men's player category with 5 of their current squad named, including Jude Bellingham, Dani Carvajal, Kylian Mbappe, Federico Valverde and Vinicius Jr., plus recently retired Toni Kroos. Inter Miami's Lionel Messi is the only player currently playing outside of Europe who has been nominated for the men's award. The women's player category has 7 players that appeared for Barcelona during 2024 after the club swept 4 trophies in the season, including the Champions League. Meanwhile, the top men's coach features an impressive lineup of Carlo Ancelotti, Lionel Scaloni, Luis Diaz Leafianto, Pep Guardiola and Xabi Alonso. And with that, we have come to an end of this edition of NewsHour. But before we go, we'll leave you with these visuals from Nepal, where Amit Machamasi, a photographer based in Bhaktapur, has documented landscapes over the years around his locality. Starting in 2022, Machamasi's exhibit, Not the Same Anymore, shows the changes around the hills of Bhaktapur with rapid development. Well, India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provide a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. All right, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lepakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.